Okay, we're making headway again today. Been sanding, more sanding, sanding on the decks. I have to decide just how smooth I need those because the epoxy primer fills to a point, but and I can spray it and then sand that smooth too. So I think I can get rid of all of the deck pattern. Had a little excitement today when I was rolling the hulls around on the sawhorses. I heard a big clunk inside, and something clear up in the center of the boat up by the dagger board was heavy, and it wasn't like rivets. And I started wondering what it was, got the flashlight on it, and it was a plate. And I was a little afraid that what that plate was the a backer on these shroud plates. And when I extracted it, the holes didn't match up, so that didn't make sense. And then finally figured out that it was a backer for the rudder brackets. So that excitement ended quickly. Looking at my repair problems, and my old repair was flawed at the time, and this crack here is serious. It actually goes all the way through. Saw it from the inside. And before, when I worked on this, my problem was that this plate had cracked around this corner. So what I was trying to do was get some glass around the corner to help reinforce it, and I was trying to do all the work on the outside of the hull. Well, again, what ended up happening is I probably changed the dimensions of the cavity and forced the tube to spread the hull apart a little bit, and that created a crack. So I get to grind this down some more on the outside, and then I'm gonna get to have some adventure trying to do some additional work on the inside, which is obviously not easy to do. Don't have a lot of access to it, but I think I can get in there and sand it enough to lay a little bit of fiberglass cloth over that crack, and then I'll work to get this surface in here back to spec, to not be interfering with the tube. And then I'm going to expand some more glass on this area, and next thing I'm going to be doing here is opening this side up a little bit more, because I'm going to be putting some glass across here. This crack does continue into the fiberglass inside, and you can see it. So again, I'm just going to add some additional glass there and then fair it all in. So that shouldn't be too tough to do. So this port hull is getting there. Just got to finish sanding this deck, do the repair on this thing, and then when the epoxy primer and all the finishes show up, I can start the process of refinishing this hull. And depending on when all my paint shows up, which is on order, but probably take a good week or so before I see it. So I got lots of work to do before then. Okay, this morning after doing a bunch of sanding, we've decided, I have decided that now would be the time to do some reinforcing of these straps areas. And not real sure if this is super obvious, but there is a small hairline crack in this one, and it's the only one that I can see, but it tells me that some reinforcing would be helpful, and now's the time to do it. So I guess that's what we'll start doing. So what we'll do in order to get the best bond between the old fiberglass and the epoxy, that gel coat needs to go away. I mean, you can bond to gel coat, but the best bond is to the original fiberglass. And I don't know if this was vinyl ester or polyester resin. In either case, the epoxy, the West system that I use, is totally adequate to bonding to the old fiberglass. In fact, it's probably even superior. Here's some of the work from yesterday, and I'm going to add to this as well. So we've gotten into reinforcing the side, and the way I did this is I didn't want to add any more material to the bottom of the concave, so I stretched the cloth across that concave opening and then glassed over it with it basically sticking straight up, and then this morning I just cut it clear, and that's going to help reinforce the bottom edge of this thing. Interesting that yesterday when I had the camera up inside looking at the bottom side, the original builders have reinforced this center section pretty dramatically with some extra layers of glass, but out here in the corners it's actually fairly thin, which is where you'd think they would have added the strength, but they didn't. The other thing I noticed that is relevant, and particularly on this rear beam, is that on the front beam there's a bulkhead running a thwartship underneath it to support it, and here on the rear beam there is nothing. It's totally open. And in hindsight, I think if I was the designer, I would have put that same bulkhead in, and at this point in time there's just no way, short of removing these caps, which I'm loath to do, to get in there and reinforce that, other than adding more material up across here. And this can all be done such that you'll never notice that the work's been done. And that's the kind of the fun thing about doing fiberglass work, is it can look like crap initially, but as you fare it in, you will not notice the reinforcing that's been done. One of my plans is I just stuck some standard 5/16 bolts in there, and I will lubricate them such that I don't get any resin down into the threads, and then still be able to back these out easily. So I'll do that. The other thing that I've been thinking about hard, and because I think my old repair actually aggravated this crack that developed in here. This dimension had gotten too tight, and so when the tube was in there, it was pressing apart, and that clearly wasn't helpful. So I've created some more room in there, and I think what I'm going to do is mix up some thickened epoxy, wrap the rear beam in some saran wrap, and then put that back on here, and then start tightening the straps down on that beam to basically make a bed. And I think there's people that probably have talked about this before, but this is how I'm doing it, to make sure that the bed completely conforms to the tube itself. Because interestingly enough now, and I checked it on the front, this is actually well clear of the tube, and I don't think it was necessarily my repair, because when I looked at the front beam it was the same way. So I think initially they designed this to have clearance from the tube, and the contact being all in these outside or outboard edges. I just think it'd be better if you had 100% contact across that entire area. So that's what I'm going to try to do, and hopefully I can try to document that too when I get to that point. But away we go. And the other thing you can see here, I got multiple layers. This is from the old repair over here. This is some new material I'm adding. I'm going to add some more from this side going forward. so that it matches the buildup that I had done over here, and then I'll fair this whole edge in at some point in time soon. So while this looks a little funky right now, it's because the original repair was a little funky, and so now we're trying to correct some of that and move along. So I don't know how far I'm going to get today, because it's already nearly 90 in my shop, and it's supposed to get close to 100. So it's not fun working in here, and I don't want the epoxy setting that fast. So we may wait till tomorrow morning to do some of this exciting work. Okay, here's a look around the shop this morning. We've sandblasted the mast and all of the auxiliary parts, and they've also now been washed with TSP, trisodium phosphate, and that leaves a really nice clean surface. And then we'll wipe it down all again with some acrylic clean type stuff to make sure there's no remaining contaminants on any of this stuff. You can see the results of the sandblasting in the pitted areas, and they've cleaned up quite nicely. And then after sanding them with the 120, they've really cleaned up really well. I think you can probably also see here the larger 1/4 inch rivet that I've put in the mast hound. That's just to add some additional strength. What do we got over here? Places on the mast that were just bright from rigging that's rubbed and whatnot. As you can see, I'm running out of space here. I got to figure out or wait for the weather to improve enough so I can open my shop up, so I can get this mast out far enough that I can get the spray gun going. Made the modifications to the boom to put the mast rotation on the top side. In hindsight, I probably should have spread those holes out a little bit more, but oh well. It is what it is. I don't think it'll cause a problem. Tiller ends, mass spreader, all kinds of stuff sitting here. Here's the hull sitting here waiting for the 545 all grip primer, and I'm waiting for the rest of that material to come in so I can finish this. You can see the bedded beams, the new inspection hatch, and while it looks like there's still some remaining pattern from that deck, that's actually smooth. So a combination of the old paint that's still in there and whatnot, it actually is a smooth surface. I'll probably go over it one more time to make sure. And then with the 545 primer, my plan is to spray it once, and then I'll sand that again, so that'll give me a little bit more filling. If that I don't really want that pattern to show through. So it looks like crap right now, but I think once we get to the primer, one thing I did is I kind of did a little more finishing on the tail end of the hulls. The piece that was originally put in there had pits and whatnot, and I filled those all in, and I think that'll look a lot nicer now than it did before. I've gone back inside and removed all the old silicone from the backing plates for the rudder supports and whatnot. And I don't know, a lot of work. Got one more to go. The other hull is still sitting out here. Got all the lettering off of it, so it's ready to start getting sanded. So the adventure continues. Have gotten all the dagger boards sanded down. Rudders are sitting there. This is the pre-coating that I'm going to use, or the wash primer it's called, that I use prior to using any epoxy primer on the aluminum. And this is a critical step. You can't just paint, even with epoxy finish or primer, you can't just paint that aluminum. It won't adhere, so you've got to have some intermediate step. And All Grip uses this wash primer CF as their approach. I looked at some of the other approaches and just wasn't willing to go there for the toxicity and whatnot. So hopefully this will be adequate and we'll get a good result. Still waiting for some more, the rest of the primer and all that good stuff to show up. Been working on small parts and cleaning them up a little bit more. And I don't know, too much fun. One thing that I'm going to do when I start putting this boat back together is I'm going to take multiple steps to separate the stainless steel from contact with the aluminum. The stainless steel holds up just fine. I don't think it'll ever go away, but the aluminum dies in contact with it. So some of the approaches that clearly will work, one that I thought was really interesting is the new straps that I've got actually have heat shrink on them, and I think that would be one approach. And I've tried it on some of the smaller pieces, and that will work just fine. Put it actually in front of here. And again, what it does is keeps that stainless steel from being in contact with the aluminum, and so that will be huge. I don't know how pretty it is, but I don't really care about that part of it. I just assume that the parts don't get wiped out. So cam cleats, all that stuff. Some of these just aren't going to clean up very well, so I'll probably just replace those. And then I get the fun of painting all these bits, and I think I'm going to end up having all the aluminum pieces be jet gray, so they're going to all match rather than have any black. It's a bridge too far for me to have a third color involved in this boat. And it could even be a fourth color if you got crazy on the hull. So I think all these bits are all going to end up being painted the jet gray color, and we'll call that good. Still waiting for my front straps, my new front straps. I can take it back. I have the straps, and they don't have the coating on them like the rears do. What I'm waiting for is the rest of my chips. These things. These look way better than what I could do with some of these. These just did not clean up satisfactorily. I mean, they just look like hell, and so I just decided to replace them. And unfortunately, Murray's has to go all the way to Australia to get these parts, so I'm still waiting for the balance of them to show up. But we are making headway. More bits. Drilled the mast for the bigger, heavier tanks, and that worked really well. I really like that. And I did check to make sure that these heavier tanks still fit the diamond wires. Essentially, this is the old tang. Right. So it was like that. So it was no big deal. Just drilled the bigger 1/4-inch holes, and away we go. So everything else is essentially the same. Like that improvement. Diamonds have always scared me. I've seen them break before, and when they do, the mass goes away. So don't want to be doing that.